put it away. But good. So, good morning, distinguished colleagues. I am Giorgio Travaini, the Executive Director of Europe's Rail. It is my honor to introduce to you a little bit this session, which is about boosting rail innovation and accelerating interoperability in Europe. And this is to us an important event because we want to highlight not only our achievements, but also what we can do together in driving the future as the rail sector. We are, I believe, in a pivotal moment today because the rail sector is addressing clear challenges with the greening and the digital transition. And those challenges are changing our system, are making railway more competitive, are making railway more sustainable and more resilient, which is also why we're here today. Our collective effort is driven really by an urgency, so the climate urgency is there, but also the technological disruption that we're looking and seeing today with the artificial intelligence, but not only. And all of this needs to be coordinated. One single player alone cannot do all the necessary changes to a system, which is the rail system, on its own. And therefore, we have created, so the European Union created a partnership between the European Union and the rail sector. And we would like to showcase to you today how we are already working together, but also, again, to provide a glimpse of the future. The first presentation will present some success stories with concrete results and outcome of the Europe's rail research and innovation, demonstrating that our work really make a difference. It's not just research for research. Secondly, we will also explore the crucial role of the technical specification for interoperability, the so-called TSI, and in general, all the harmonization for achieving really a truly effective and safe interoperable European rail system. And then we will present to you also a little bit, as I said, a glimpse of the future with a strategic vision that we have developed, a strategic paper for the next steps. Today with me, I have on my right Nicolas Herb, which is the European Affairs Director from Alstom. And on my left, Olivier Piron, Head of Rolling Stock and Fixed Installation from the European Union Agency for Railway. After the presentation, we will have also the possibility for questions, so that don't hesitate to ask them, and we will try to do our best to provide to you our answer. And so, with this, I immediately leave the floor for the first presentation to Nicolas.
Okay. So, hello everyone, and thank you, Giorgio, for inviting us to contribute to this session. Very rapidly, Alstom, you probably know the company if you are involved in the railway sector. So we are the, let's say, European leader for railway technology, be it for trains, signaling, infrastructure, and their maintenance, with about 86,000 colleagues in the world, a bit more than half of them being based in Europe. And with a turnover, these are the results of the year we just concluded, with a bit more than 18 billion euro of sales and a record backlog of close to 100 billion euro actually of projects to execute in the years to come, which shows the dynamism of the railway market and let's say the sustained investment that countries are making to make their transport more sustainable, thanks to rail, be it for cities and intercity transport. We are a founding member of the Europe's Rail Partnership. We were as well a founding member of Shift to Rail, its predecessor. This is for us an extremely important tool for the sector to become more competitive and more innovative in the years to come. Why? Because being more competitive is a must. I think it's an obligation for all of us. If we want to decarbonize our transport systems, we need railway to increase its modal share. Let's say there's no other way. And to do that, we need railway systems to be more competitive. Now, the situation we have is that in our sector, it's quite demanding, let's say, to bring innovation in real, let's say, in commercial service. Reaching a high TRL level, so technology readiness level, is a very long process, is a very costly process. And rail being a system, it's, as Giorgio mentioned, it's very difficult for one single actor to, let's say, reach or let's say undertake the complete innovation cycle on its own. There is as well a specific European angle to the discussion because, of course, our intent in Europe is to implement a pan-European interoperable railway system. And of course, it means that any innovation that we bring has to support or at least do not hinder interoperability of the network. And that also means that there is a strong link with the regulatory process that Olivier will cover later on. So the Europe's Rail partnership is one way to address these challenges. So it provides us a long-term approach, so a certain visibility over time and over the resources that we have to focus on innovation. It's a collaborative approach, meaning that you have around the table all the stakeholders from the industry, the operators, the infrastructure managers, the research centers. So we are able to pool the resources of all the different actors and to benefit from all their added value and for their know-how and capabilities to actually undertake all this research project. And in addition, in Europe's Rail, we have now a new, let's say, project called the System Pillar, which also try to bring consensus in the, let's say, the long-term view that we have for our railway system in Europe. So I was asked to propose or to provide some, let's say, some of the results that Europe's Rail is intending to achieve. Summarizing a 1.2 billion research project in 10 minutes is a bit of a challenge, so I decided to focus on two of the projects. One which is on, let's say, the future evolution of our European signaling system, ERTMS, which is undertaken in the framework of a program R2 Dato. Here, for example, I will just briefly present three of the domains that are being investigated. One, and perhaps the most important one, is to develop automation systems for railway operation. So moving towards automated train operation on mainline, knowing that the technology is, of course, already largely deployed on metro and urban rail systems. So this is, of course, would offer some extremely important benefits in terms of competitiveness, frequency, reliability, energy efficiency. And typically, this is something that no company can do alone, especially in Europe, because, again, you need to ensure that at the end, your trains, equipped, for example, by Alstom, are able to operate on the infrastructure equipped by any other supplier. So there is a need to have a structure like Europe Rail to do this type of development together. And here we will go up to the stage of a demonstration. Another topic is around train positioning. The starting point of railway signaling is to know where your trains are at any given point. And here today, let's say it's a bit of a challenging domain because depending on the local topography of the lines, of even the stations, the density of lines, sometimes you have to rely on different technology, LIDAR, satellite positioning, etc. So here the idea is to go toward a more simpler, perhaps a more efficient system, and as well, so reduce, I would say, the envelope of the systems that are required on board. And finally, FRMCS, so this is actually a vital element of the work of Europe's Rail. So because we need to define and validate the next train to track communication system that will replace GSMR in the years to come in Europe. So here a project has started just recently that will test the latest draft of the specification with a view then to arrive with mature specification that will be then able to be integrated in our regulatory framework in Europe in the next few years. Again, this is something we can only do in a structure like Europe's Rail. No actor can do this type of development on its own. Briefly, another project is called Rail for Earth, and Alstom is coordinating it actually. And here, just to highlight two very important developments. One is a work on battery-powered trains. Here, the idea is, of course, to develop alternatives to diesel traction and enable, let's say, to progress in the decarbonization of railway system. Rail transport is, the best in class in terms of energy efficiency for collective transport mode, but still, we have to find a suitable solution to displace, let's say, the legacy diesel engines that we have still operating across Europe and the world. In Rail for Earth, we are particularly focusing on batteries with the aim to develop a battery system that will enable to have an autonomy up to 200 kilometers. So if you think about cars, you may think that 200 kilometers is not so much. But you also have to keep in mind that in the railway system, the way that trains are operated are a little bit different. Of course, they are heavier vehicles. They operate continuously through the day, in winter, in summer. So the sort of a demand on the battery management system, or the operational conditions are much more demanding than for the automotive application. So that's why we have a need to, let's say, find a suitable solution for our trains. The second domain is on working on digital twin. In railways, we are as well the safest collective land transport mode. That's why we always have, let's say, a very demanding validation phase before we put into service any type of new vehicles. And that today goes through a lot of real-life testing, which is a complex, long, and costly process. So here the idea is to as well to gradually be able to replace some of this with virtual testing using digital twins of the main components and subsystems. But of course, this can only be done once you have a level of maturity that guarantees you that the results you have in a virtual simulation are reliable enough, let's say, to replace real-life testing. And again, this is something that we can only do together within Europe's Rail. So looking ahead, I think I can safely speak in the name of all funding members to say that we have a unanimous support to continue Europe's Rail in the next EU framework program for R&D. This is clearly a type of cooperative structure that we need in the railway sector to unlock innovation and accelerate our innovative efforts. There will be a need probably to take stock of, let's say, new priorities on the EU policy agenda. Industrial competitiveness is one of them, but of course the topic of this summit, resilience, is another. It's of course another challenge that has to be addressed by the railway community. Then there will be as well a specific need to work better on deployment of technologies. I mean, we will finalize Europe's Rail and deliver a number of technology, let's say, at a good level of readiness. I mentioned FRMCS. I could have mentioned digital coupling for freight as well. Now, the next step will be to ensure that these technologies are deployed in a coordinated way across Europe. And finally, we also need perhaps to make room to have a smaller scale, perhaps more disruptive innovation project, which we do not really have in the EU Rail portfolio today. And I would like to mention as well, it's been a challenge for some time, but we also need to perhaps focus more of our efforts also on urban rail application and systems where we need as well perhaps to complement the partnership with actors from this domain. So clearly for Alstom and for the whole railway community, EU Rail and its continuation will be one of the main challenge and the main point of discussion at stake in the discussions around the next EU multi-annual financial framework. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. I suggest that we continue the presentation so that you can see until the end, and I then give the floor to Olivier.
Sorry, I start again. So, what is ERA? Is the European Union Agency for Railways. That is a European organization, a bit similar to Europe's Rail. We are situated in north of France, in Valenciennes, and we are dealing with railway safety domain and interoperability. To go a little bit more into the details, in fact, we are on one hand policymaker and on the other hand authority. What does it mean to be an authority? It means that we deliver the single safety certificates for the operator so that they are authorized to operate everywhere in Europe. And we are also delivering the vehicle authorization. So it means that each train operating in Europe needs to receive from the agency an authorization. We are also system authority for the ERTMS, that is the European Rail Traffic Management System, and also for telematic applications. That's one hand. And on the second part of our activities, we are dealing with safety matters when we try to harmonize the level of safety over Europe. We monitor the safety, national safety authorities, and we also work on the interoperability area. And this is a bit the subject of today, because I will talk about what a TSI is. A TSI stands for Technical Specification for Interoperability. TSIs are documents that are law, that are mandatory everywhere in Europe, and that define the level of requirements necessary in order to achieve interoperability of the rail in Europe. It means that avoid any cross-border problems when a train passes the border. There are several TSIs that we are developing. Structural TSIs that deal with infrastructure, rolling stock, energy, control command and signaling, noise, etc. And we have also functional subsystems, functional TSIs that are dealing with the operation and telematic applications. So how those TSIs are delivered and becomes the law? The agency provides to the Commission a recommendation or several recommendations, and based on those agency recommendations, the Commission seeks about the opinion of the member states, and when the opinion of the member state is positive, it becomes EU regulations through the co-decision procedure. And how do we establish those recommendations that we provide to the Commission? It's not only the agency working alone. We organize several working parties on different topics. In these working parties are invited sector organizations, those who represent the manufacturer, like Alstom, for instance, but also the representative bodies of the infrastructure manager or the railway undertakings. And we invite also the NSAs that represents, let's say, the ministry. And we also can invite other experts, and Europe's Rail here is a particularly good example, because when the topic goes to research and innovation, of course, we work together with Europe's Rail. So TSIs are the mandatory requirements in Europe. But it's clear that the network as it is today in Europe is a bit like a patchwork, and there are still national rules that needs to be obeyed in different member states. And another task of the agency is to reduce as much as possible those national rules. At the same time, we increase the number of requirements in the TSI, so that in the end we can achieve a single European rail area. So as you see, we decreased quite drastically the number of national rules over the last 5 years. what I would like to present you today, so that you have an idea on what the TSI are dealing with, this is the last set of TSIs that are into force. We delivered a recommendation in 2023 to the Commission, and the different topics that we were dealing with were especially on the simplifications of the TSIs, how to implement it in a smooth way. We also update the reference to the standards so that we are compliant with the state of the art of the industry. And we add also new topics that Nicolas mentioned, like for instance, the automatic train operation. We don't put into the TSI the full set of requirements of the ATO, but only those requirements that are necessary to achieve interoperability. And it's the same for the FRMCS requirements or other topics such as combined transport of or specific unique authorization for passenger coaches. So this is not because we delivered the last set of TSI in 2023 that we stop looking at them. So it means that really in June 2024, so almost several months after, we received from the Commission a new request asking us to deliver the TSI and to work on 80 different topics that are all contributing to one of those different themes that you can see in the screen. So I would like to mention the accessibility to reduce person-reduced mobility, for instance, to reduce the cost of the rail, to complete the single European railway area, to seek for more transparency, to simplify the different topic. And what I surrounded in red is also important here, because we have to take on board all the research and innovation results that are, in most of them, delivered by Europe's Rail, because they are managing all those projects at European level. And here you are again on some example in which we contributed and for which the TSI will be amended. Those who are surrounded in red are those in which we are working in close collaboration with Europe's Rail, because they are directly the result of innovative solutions. So, for instance, Nicolas mentioned ATO that is there, also new propulsions, battery propulsions, hydrogens. I forgot to mention to surround virtual certification, but it's also a topic, and so on and so forth. FRMCS is also a key element. That's the new communication system that will use the 5G network. Cybersecurity is one, and DAC, that stands for Digital Automatic Coupler. That is another very big subject that I will mention here, and it will be my last slide. So it's just to show you how the agencies contribute also to Europe's Rail and the contrary around. Here you have a snapshot about the different topics that needs to be studied for the digital automatic coupling. Maybe I should explain what the digital automatic coupling is as well. Between wagons, nowadays you have these mechanical hooks that you have to hook with one person that needs to do it itself. In the future, we would like to have this coupling that is done automatic. It's not an improvement only on safety for the personnel, but it will also make wagons more intelligent, because you will have also possibility to exchange data between wagons, amongst the wagons, with the train, but also with the infrastructure. So it will be a kind of revolution for the freight sector. And as you see in the table here, there are several topics like research on the requirements necessary, but also how we can fund the retrofitting, how we will implement the DAC and change the different hooks in the wagons, how we will retrofit them, what are the cost-benefit analysis, and where the agency is deeply involved is when it is to define the European requirements mandatory, and that will be in the TSI, and also how to ease the authorization process for such a huge retrofit campaign. And I think this is the end of my presentation. So thank you very much. And I will give the floor now to George.
Thank you very much, Olivier. And the last point of our presentation, I hope will summarize a little bit, or at least will provide a good conclusion to those two presentations, because we have reflected with our membership on the future after the research and innovations that we're doing in Europe's trade. Olivier already mentioned there is also all the concerns or how you implement those innovation and how you approach it from a systematic perspective with all the countries being involved. And these are, again, the initial reflection from the Europe's Rail members, does not commit Europe's Rail or anyone, because still a regulatory environment needs to be created for this to happen. But what we believe that is important to do in the future is to use a buzzword that we have been, you have been probably hearing since quite a lot recently, the simplification. But in case of the rail system, it's actually what is needed. So we needed to simplify the rail system in operation, because today we have a very complex system with different bespoke solutions. So we needed to simplify that. Why? Because we needed to make the rail system more agile, more resilient, and more competitive, also more economically competitive. In doing that, there is actually spillover effect, because we are helping to achieve the single European rail area, so making sure at the end that all transport across Europe go in a seamless way, both of goods and people. And at the same time, we are creating also a single market in Europe. Because when you can imagine that we will have a single system, the product and the solutions that fill this single system can be the same all over the European countries. So this will also decrease the cost and to the benefit of Europe, but not only. If you think internationally, the rail system will become less expensive. And in Europe, we see that rail is absolutely crucial for the European economy, for its security. We've been seeing recently, unfortunately, but also for the sustainability, being the greenest mass transport mode. At the moment, there is no other solution than this one. Also, in terms of economical impact, is very significant. You can see that it's contributing to 143 billion euros to the European GDP and is employing a lot of people. So it's not something to be dismissed, and that's why it's the importance. And one of the highlights we would like to make is that it's essential to continue to invest in the rail competitiveness. Rail has been seen maybe in the past as a sector that asks for subsidies. We need to stop this trend, and we need to look into investments. So we need to invest collectively in making railway better, more competitive, so that it relies less on subsidies and actually is becoming much more competitive. So how, or what we need to address as challenge? Well, those of you that are in the rail sector knows it very well, but otherwise we need to address this system fragmentation, as I have explained before. We are facing also some funding constraints. In the past, the railways has been heavily nationally funded. We needed to find a model where also the private sector chips in more and more, and the public-private partnership are a good model for this, and that's why there is this willingness to push for that. Europe per se is having a competitiveness pressure from Asia, but in general also the rail sector has a competitiveness pressure. We have been seeing also in this ITF quite a lot of discussion about road automation, road electrification. Obviously, road will become much more competitive. So how do we address this competitiveness pressure? And then also the resilient issues, the theme of the ITF, it's very much important on two fronts, the climate resilient, but also the security resilient, especially now in Europe. And rail can play a significant role in this domain. But we need a coordinated, I think the message was clear, a coordinated approach across the stakeholders, and we need an instrument to make this an addressing. This coordinated approach among stakeholders is not only for big players. We need also to have, the innovative thinking and the agility of SMEs and startups, and then also the knowledge that comes from researching institutions. We have been demonstrating, I believe, that a partnership like Europe's Rail and Shift to Rail before it is a good structure for that. And a model for innovation has been also proven, because otherwise both those members will not ask for it, for a continuation, and on the other side we will not have the results that we are having. We have more than 70 solutions that are market ready, and we have been able to perform more than 700 testing activities, meaning that we are also effective in implementing those programs. And we need these ambitious common investments for the future. Here it's for the moment just a ask, but this ask is, let's say, backed up by at least the private member willingness to push it forward, and also willingness to do it in a PPP approach. With 3 billion euros for research and innovation, we have a change compared to the past, because the idea is really to address those essential one-time developments that today impede actually the rail system to change. Impede the rail system to change because each country needs to develop, or each stakeholders needs to develop its own solution to bridge and to go into the transition, into the new system, and we would like to help with this. Investment being done in the past will not be scrapped out from one day to another. So we need to find an innovative solution to bridge this gap. And then we need also to look into how do we facilitate the introduction of those solutions into the entire system. And we are talking therefore of deployment, or more specifically in this case, a pre-deployment, but which will need also a country coordination and a country probably also participation from the national budgets to make sure that we're able to really start to making the system evolving, and at the end for what? For delivering both for passenger but also for businesses, better service quality, cost effectiveness, better system resilience, and obviously all together with a standardized approach and more harmonization. So this is the end of our long presentation. So thank you for your attention. Those are the Europe's Rail members. And I would like to ask you if you have any question. All the three of us are able to respond to your doubts.
Is this public plus private money? Okay. And then my second question, my second question is a bit more general. I work on international collaboration for research, innovation, and transports. I would be curious to hear your views on any or ideas that you might have on anything related to international collaboration that you you would like to see happen that you currently don't see happening, specifically in research and innovation for your sector? Thank you.
Maybe I start and then you complement, because my colleagues will have plenty to say, I'm sure. So Europe 3 is already collaborating quite a lot internationally, based on the mutual agreement and the sets that are in the on the rules of the European Commission. So first of all, Europe's rail follow also the international, let's say, strategies and agreement for international cooperation of the European Union. We are having an example of a good collaboration at the level of exchange of information. At the moment, the rail sector, it's largely the one that in Europe that is looked as still an example on the innovation. So, for example, when we are collaborating with Canada, just to mention ones, there is a lot of exchange of knowledge so that they can also know what they can use in terms of future systems into their future procurement. This is just an example. Then we are having all the cooperation, the international cooperation with the countries which are not European Union countries, but are associated to the Horizon Europe program for research and innovation. And those actually stakeholders coming from those countries are participating in our project. For example, well, I cite a few of them. We have Switzerland, but we even have a founding member which is coming from other countries, Norway, and in Europe also with UK enlarged, etc., etc. And then the last collaboration, if you want, that we have at international level, it's also the discussion in different fora, international fora like this one, where Europe's Rail can provide its input. And what we are looking forward into the next steps, it's really to learn maybe more from what is happening elsewhere. The European research and innovation activities are quite transparent. Our multi-annual work program, it's public. Sometimes to know what is going on in the rest of the world, you need to indeed participate to conferences. And the next conferences where Europe's Rail will be attending is the World Congress for Rail Research in Colorado in November, just to give an example.
Perhaps I can briefly complement. I think for the industrial participants and members of URail, it's also important that indeed the innovation that we develop within URail, let's say, that they can be leveraged globally, not just for projects inside Europe. So for us, it's also important, of course, that in the work program of Europe's Rail, we do not exclusively focus on the needs of, let's say, the European systems, but that we're also able to work on innovation that makes sense globally. And of course, being global companies, we are also able to bring some of this know-how and visibility inside the partnership. But then again, as mentioned by Giorgio, we are of course fully supportive of making sure that the partnership can draw on the broadest possible knowledge base and to sustain the collaboration with associated countries, with two horizons, in particular. Thanks.
Yes, I can add some topics. Of course, we are also in communication with some of the internationally, let's say, we have memorandum of understanding with different organizations like the US, like some countries is in South America. We have also established strong connection with the EU, the country that would like to access EU in the future. For instance, we have established a topical working group dealing with the 20 millimeter system. That is the system that is similar to the Russian one, but that is established in the Baltic countries. And we work on this in order to harmonize it at the European level, knowing the situation as it is today. So we would like also to have an harmonization that is really established in Europe, and for that we invite also other countries that would like to participate, like for instance Ukraine, that will be part of the topical group as observer.
Are there any other questions you would like to, and any answer you would like to receive from us? Yeah. The mic is arriving if...
Well, hi everyone. Thanks for the presentation. My name is Dirk Gottschlich from El Mercurio, a Chilean newspaper. And in Chile, Chile has a really long and narrow territory, and people always wonder why we don't have more train rails. So, do you recommend the Chilean government invest more in this kind of transportation instead of another forms of or system of transportation?
I think each country obviously will make their own choice, but I know that in the discussion that we're having today, at least I have heard it in the different discussion, that each government are looking into reducing the CO2 emission, and they are looking into meeting, the COP target and all of these. And they are looking for energy efficient solution as well. And rail is one, and in the transport domain, it's probably the most efficient transport modes, simply because of the physics. So the very low friction that exists, of the contact between a steel wheel and a steel rail, makes so that when the train is running, it's almost glide. So it consumes not a lot of energy. And I think in this moment, this is particularly important strategically to look and think about the future, in a future where you will need more and more energy resources, and those will become scarcer and scarcer. Maybe it's best to invest also in the transport mode that is the most energy efficient. Okay, are there any other questions? Doesn't appear so. So thank you very much for this, and have a good continuation of this conference.